Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. How are we doing this evening? We will be continuing to read on the Texas House Committee report today. If you missed the first part, that is on the YouTube. The full playback is posted there. And we're doing that so that if you miss a part, if you come in late, you have to leave early, you can catch the whole conversation, the whole read through of it. We made it to about page 28 last night. There was a lot of discrepancies. There was a lot of bullshit that was said in there. So that is what we are doing today. And, quick thing before we do get started, we're going to give it a few minutes, but I will say this, opposition, tonight's not the night. Come back on another day when we are doing these, what y'all like to call debates, and we absolutely can do that. Actually, stay and listen, stay and see how the government failed us, the police failed us, the school system failed us, the county, the state. Sit through it and you might actually learn something. We're going to give it a few more minutes to let everybody get in, and then we'll be moving on. I will say this. We immediately, there should be a trigger warning immediately. There is where we left off last night makes us start today on talking about the attacker, and trigger warning for anybody in here that is from Uvalde that, is a part of this. I do apologize, but y'all know me, and I'm always bringing up everything that is said. So there will be that. And also there is talks about essay in this next portion, I know for sure. So just trying to, inform everybody before we get to that point. Also, like I said yesterday, while we're reading through this, I know that at one point there is pictures of the guns. So when that happens, I will be turning it back to the screen that y'all see right now, and just reading through. We'll get through that, and then I'll turn the report back on so that y'all can see. I just don't want to get deplatformed or anything like that because of it. It was a rough read yesterday. It's going to be a rough read today, especially because we're getting into everything today. But, it has to be done. We did this about 2 years ago. So there's a lot of people that are new here that haven't read this, haven't seen this, haven't heard of this. And we didn't do it in like long form content like we're doing now on YouTube, so that you can go back and see it. So I can't just be like, oh, hey, we talked about this, go and watch it over here, because it doesn't exist. So we're going through and doing it for that reason as well. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and start in just a few seconds. Fuck. There we go. All right. Are y'all ready? Got to make sure that y'all are ready before we just jump right into this. Okay, I was about to say there's quite a bit of people in here, but we're not seeing too many people that are ready. So we are streaming on YouTube as well as at Cross0524. All right, guys. The attacker. This is page 29. This is where we're picking up from yesterday. The attacker. One motive that drove the man behind the massacre at Robb Elementary School was a desire for notoriety and fame. The committee refuses to perpetuate his memory in that way or focus. Our focus is to ensure that Texas never forgets the children and beloved teachers who have been lost and the lessons this tragedy can teach. So instead of naming him, we call him by a generic term used in active shooter training, the attacker. In consultation with the local community in Uvalde, the committee arranged to show victims' families in advance of public release a prudently edited version of Robb Elementary's hallway surveillance video that did not include images of him. We regret that others, under cover of anonymity and for their own motives, have sensationalized evidence of this horrible tragedy at the risk of glorifying a monster. So, I know yesterday we bagged on this committee a lot, and I will say that this is the only one good thing that they did is not name him. You know, we talk constantly about no notoriety. It is very pertinent that we do not give them this notoriety that they want so that others are not drawn to it to try to get that same notoriety, you know? So I will commend them on that. The second part of what they're talking about is how at one point we were supposed to be shown the video of him going into the school, into the classrooms and shooting, but there wasn't supposed to be any gun sounds or anything, right? We were actually, most of us were in D.C. at that time, you know, talking to legislators and everything like that, having meetings with all of these people. And a news outlet out of Austin decided to go ahead and play the whole video. But we were supposed to be shown first before they showed the public. That company got a hold of it and decided to go ahead and play it. We called them, begged them not to, because we hadn't seen it yet. It was like 3 or 4 days before we were going to see it. We called. We had members of Congress call. You know, we had these people of, quote, power calling and being like, hey, just hold off until they see it on Sunday, I believe it was. We tried for hours, and they just released it. They didn't give a shit about us. That was fucking hard. So, with that being said, and I can go into a whole story on what happened, how that happened, and all of that. But that is what they are describing in this right here. The attacker was born in Fargo, North Dakota on May 16th, 2004. The second child born to the mother, Uvalde native A.R., and her then boyfriend, S.R. The couple split shortly after the attacker's birth, and A.R. returned to Uvalde with the 2 children. The father had limited and inconsistent involvement in his children's lives from that point forward. I wish she had never returned. Like, you know, we always talk about, you know, preventative measures and everything like that. And this isn't really a preventative measure, but had they not moved back, our children would still be here. Mother A.R. was known to several witnesses who testified before the committee from her work as a server as a server at local Uvalde restaurants. AR was involved in the attacker's early life, but over time, her relationship with both her children became strained. AR struggled with a long history of drug use and other personal issues, though her only criminal history was a 2005 misdemeanor theft that ended in probation and a dismissed 2007 charge of misdemeanor family violence assault. The FBI interviewed a former girlfriend of the attacker who believed one of AR's boyfriends sexually assaulted him at an early age, but that AR didn't believe his outcry. The attacker and his family had some support from extended family, most notably AR's mother, CG. Testimony before the committee portrayed CG as well known and well regarded in the Uvalde community, particularly within the local school district from which she retired after 27 years. CG took on the role of a maternal figure in the lives of both the attacker and his sister, especially as they grew older. Relatives described the attacker as shy and quiet. The committee heard testimony that he was reluctant to interact with peers because of a speech impediment. Poverty is not an unfamiliar circumstance in Uvalde. 86% of the children in school may be economically disadvantaged. The attacker often wore the same clothing day after day. So right here, this is a part where I feel like they're trying to soften who this motherfucker was, right? Because why did they just go off of what relatives described? When you listen to the interviews of the kids he went to school with, who was like, nah, that dude was fucking wild, right? Like, he was always bullying people and everything like that. That is way different than what the relatives are describing. And obviously, your relatives, for the most part, are going to be like, oh, yeah, it wasn't bad, all that shit. Y'all know how it is, right? So I don't like that they did that. And it has nothing to do with anything, you know? Like it doesn't. So, school. Records from the attacker's early school years reveal varied accounts of his character and school performance. His pre-K teacher reported him as a pleasure to have, a wonderful student, and always ready to learn. And it praised his hard work and positive attitude in the classroom. Yet early assessments showed he was behind other students academically. And by third grade, school officials already had identified him as at risk due to consistently poor test results. School records reveal that someone may have requested speech therapy for the attacker, and his later internet searches show he himself sought information on dyslexia. Ultimately, he received no special education sources or services. Oh, let me see. Sorry about that. The attacker's fourth grade year at Robb Elementary School was significant to him. The shooting took place in his former fourth grade classroom, and he discussed bad memories of fourth grade with an acquaintance just weeks beforehand. In testimony before the committee, two different narratives have emerged. So which is it? Why are we putting this in here if it has nothing, like, there's two different narratives? So which one is the truth, right? And going back just a little bit, what does having dyslexia or a speech impediment do? Like, what relevance does that have to the fact that he was a piece of shit and went in and shot our kids? Once again, Texas is trying to make this guy softer than he was. The attacker's fourth grade teacher testified before the committee. Not only did she know the attacker from having been his teacher, but she was also in Robb Elementary's fourth grade building in a different classroom at the time of the attack. This teacher told the committee she knew the attacker needed extra help in her class because he claimed to be a victim of bullying. Once again, they're pushing that bullying shit way too fucking hard. Obviously, we're against bullying and everything. The fact that they're trying to make it seem like, oh, this kid was just a beat down, poor soul that just did this is completely unrealistic. Completely at all, especially when we hear what others who had day-to-day interactions with him have to say. You're going based off of something that had been done, a decade before, possibly. She testified that she met with the attacker's mother, AR, over the mother's concerns about bullying, and that she had promised AR that her son would have a good fourth grade year. According to the teacher, it was a good year for the attacker. She said she believed her classroom was a safe place for him and that he made friends there. Members of the attacker's family, however, once again, we're just talking to the attacker's family, who isn't going to paint a negative light on him, really. Members of the attacker's family, however, reported to the committee their belief that other students still bullied the attacker throughout his fourth grade year over his stutter, clothing, and short haircut. A cousin of the attacker said she was in the same fourth grade class with him, and she corroborated this version of his experience that year. She reported an incident in which another girl in the class tied the attacker's shoelaces together, resulting in him falling over and injuring his face. The family also reported their belief that some teachers also picked on the attacker and his cousin. What the fuck? Once again, Texas is trying to put blame everywhere except for themselves and the shooter at this point, right? Who gives a fuck what the family said? Like, do you think I give a fuck what O.J. Simpson's family has to say about his character? No, I don't trust that. I don't believe that. Why are we doing that in what is supposed to be an official Texas report? Oh, well, his family said this, so it must be true. What the actual fuck are they doing? So much so to include that the family also reported their belief that some teachers also picked on the attacker and his cousin. So now these teachers are just fucking bullying the fuck out of kids, right? Come on. All right. Despite the accounts that suggest bullying of the attacker had become a concern by the fourth grade, in notes found on his phone, he described them as beginning in middle school. It is not known to the committee whether the attacker ever shared these notes with anybody. So what is it? Was it in primary? Was it in middle school? Once again, they are changing, they are pushing this narrative to make him this likable character, even knowing what he goes on to fucking do. Like, this is absurd. Records show the attacker had declining attendance with more than 100 absences annually beginning in 2018, along with failing grades and increasingly dismal performance on standardized and end-of-course exams. While Uvalde CISD school officers do try to bring truant children back to school, many Uvalde students have spotty attendance, and the local judicial system reportedly does not consistently enforce truancy rules. It is unclear whether any school resource officers ever visited the home of the attacker. Despite his absences, or perhaps because of them, the attacker had almost no disciplinary history at school. The single infraction of his school record is for mutual combat with another student in a hallway in late 2018, resulting in a 3-day suspension. By 2021, at age 17, the attacker had only completed the 9th grade. On October 28, 2021, Uvalde High School involuntarily withdrew him, citing poor academic performance and lack of attendance. The year before. In a year distinguished by the general school-age population's return to school in Uvalde and elsewhere after the COVID pandemic, the attacker dropped out of school and turned down a dark path. While in earlier years, notes in his phones reflect that he unsuccessfully sought to fit in, including a fixation with weight and fitness that resulted in an eating disorder, in 2021 he appears to have increasingly withdrew and isolated himself. An ex-boyfriend of his mother, AR, described the attacker to an investigating Texas Ranger as a loner who punched holes in the walls of his room after arguments with her. By this time, the attacker's sister already had graduated and left home, and his best, parentheses, perhaps only, friend was living in San Antonio. The attacker had no driver's license or vehicle. Family members told the committee and other investigators that a group of the attacker's former friends jumped him earlier in the year. The attacker began trying to teach himself boxing and mixed martial arts with a punching bag in his room at home. Once again, just continuously trying to be like, oh, woe is him. What? Are you absolutely shitting me? This whole investigative report was done because he shot up the school. He killed all these people. And now we're trying to paint him the victim? Once again, they keep saying that family members told the committee and other investigators. Did we verify any of this? Did we actually look into this? Or is this, like I said earlier, fucking O.J. Simpson's family saying, oh, no, he was a swell guy. He was just the victim of poor circumstances. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. In mid-2021, his relationship with the girlfriend, later interviewed by the FBI, ended. She described the attacker as lonely and depressed, constantly teased by friends who called him a school shooter. She said he told her repeatedly that he wouldn't live past 18, either because he would commit suicide or simply because he wouldn't live long. The attacker responded to the breakup by harassing the girl and her friends. So we have harassment, but we're not going to go into that, right? No, we're going to be like, oh, woe is him. Woe is him. The attacker began wearing black clothes, combat boots, and long, unkempt hair. He was active on several social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and the French live streaming platform Ubo. He networked with local peers in ongoing group chats on Snapchat, and he played a range of video games, including the Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto series. Most of his usernames and even his email address reflected themes of confrontation and revenge. So, what? So now we're blaming it on, oh, he wore black clothes. I typically wear nothing but black clothes. The fuck does that have to do with anything? He had long hair. A lot of people have fucking long hair. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? Right? Once again, just saying ridiculous shit. Just saying ridiculous shit. Maybe to fill pages at this point. I don't know. And then what they're trying to do right there, and y'all notice that they did this, right? Y'all notice that they did. He played a range of video games, including Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto. So have I. I played Call of Duty literally up until the shooting. I can't bring myself to play it anymore, but I played it. I played it a lot. I was good at it. Played Grand Theft Auto for a long fucking time. Never made me want to do anything. So this fucking narrative that they're trying to push that, oh, it's not guns. It's fucking black clothes, long hair, and video games. That's what it is. Like, that's literally what they're doing. Holy fuck. The attacker began to demonstrate interest in gore and violent sex, watching and sometimes sharing gruesome videos and images of... This report's going to get me fucking blocked. Like, I'm going to lose my account for all of these words. Holy fuck. But we are going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Sharing gruesome videos and images of suicides, beheadings, accidents, and the like, as well as sending unexpected, let me make sure I didn't get that. As well as sending unexpected explicit messages to others online. Those with whom he played video games reported that he became enraged when he lost. Skill issue. He made over-the-top threats, especially toward females players, whom he would terrorize with graphic descriptions of violence and rape. But we're not going to focus on any of this that shows the tendency that he had, but we're going to show we're going to be like, oh, he was bullied. His online interactions grew more manipulative and controlling as the year wore on, and he presented a more commanding personality online than he did in person. He pretended to a greater level of maturity than he had, searching the internet for information on on sexual practices mentioned by others in conversation. The attacker wrote about his difficulty connecting to other people or feeling empathy for them. He said he was not human, and he called others humans, apparently intending it as an insult. Before we continue any further, guys, I'm going to need y'all real quick to go and follow me on YouTube at Cross0524, because reading all of this shit is more than likely going to get me taken down from TikTok. So I want to be sure that if it does drop in the middle of us reading this, that y'all can come here, that y'all can still see it on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So it's at Cross0524. The attack. Oh, wait. Later internet usage suggests he may have wondered if he was a sociopath and sought out information on the condition. His internet research resulted in him receiving an email about obtaining psychological treatment for sociopathy. The attacker became focused on achieving notoriety. He believed his TikTok and YouTube channels would be successful. The small number of views he received led him to tell those with whom he interacted that he was famous, that they were mere randoms by comparison, and that they were lucky to interact him. You want to know what is the most ironic thing? Is that he's not famous, right? Like, yeah, people know his name. They look it up and everything like that. Uzziah is famous, more famous than he ever was. Every single one of those children who lost their lives are now more famous than he was. The teachers. So even in doing what he thought would make everything so fucking big and blow him up and everything like that, backfired against him. And fucking damn right that it did. Because fuck this piece of shit. On Yubo, the attacker spoke enviously of publicity given to a murderer and animal abuser whose story became widely known after a Netflix documentary. I can tell y'all what that documentary was. It was, what was it? Don't Fuck with Cats? Or that's the name of it or some shit? Yeah. I don't know if that's like verbatim the name of it, but I was like, Don't Fuck with Cats, I think is the name of it. In late 2021, he shared a video online that showed him driving around with someone he met on the internet, holding a clear plastic bag that contained a dead cat, which he discarded in the street and spit on while his driver laughed. The video then showed the attacker wearing a tactical plate carrier, went on to show him dry firing BB guns at people, and ended with footage of emergency services responding to a serious car accident, which he claimed his driver had caused. This was on a website, apparently. I don't know too much about Yubo. Never. Literally, the only other time before I heard it tonight and everything was when I read this 2 fucking years ago. So this was on a website, and this video was up. They see this shit like, holy fuck, and nobody said anything. The platform didn't take his shit down. Authorities weren't called. What the fuck? The attacker got a job in late 2021. He first worked at Whataburger, where a friend's grandmother saw him. She snapped a picture and sent it to her grandson, warning that it was an example of what your life will be if you quit school. A sentiment some of his peers expressed to him directly. How do we know this? Once again, how do we know this? Huh? How the fuck do... Who's the friend? Who's the grandmother? Or is this something that family friends said? Members of his family said? Where it's not noted or notated anywhere. There's no sort of, like in other pages, we'll get shit like this. Where is that? How do we see that? His employer fired him after a month for threatening a female coworker, and he fared similarly at his next job at Wendy's. He made death threats to people, and both Whataburger and Wendy's in Uvalde just fired him. They didn't report it to the police or anything like that. They just fired him. What's crazy about this is we tell our children, right? We're like, see something, say something, see something, say something, until it happens to us adults. They saw something, but they didn't say nothing. They were just like, okay, cool, you can't work here. Go on to another place and work and do the same shit. We don't want you here. So... let me see. A coworker there described him as not a good person and troubled, someone who put himself in a box and would not talk or associate with anyone he worked with. An exception to that approach was when he tried discussing guns with another employee. When the other employee received the discussion negatively, the attacker challenged him to a fight. The attacker, who occasionally worked with his grandfather, who had an air conditioning business, and paid him in cash. What? The attacker also occasionally worked with his grandfather, who had an air conditioning business, and paid him in cash. Cool. Living at home, the attacker had no real expenses and hoarded money, telling acquaintances that he was saving for something big and that they would all see him in the news one day, and yet nobody said anything. Family members believed he was saving money for his own apartment or car, but clues to his real plans surfaced near the end of 2021. So the family knew by 2021, and we're not doing anything? I need to address something. Because before we continue on with this, I want y'all to know that this family was so closely tied with Sheriff Nolasco, the guy who is at the head of the sheriffs. Like, they were close. And we don't have to speculate or wonder this. When the grandmother gets shot, she calls Nolasco's personal phone, not his work cell phone, his personal phone, telling him what happened. They called him personally. They were close enough to him, but they didn't ever tell the cops of the red flags that this guy was at all. Huh. And still this community continues to vote Nolasco in as sheriff. Just want y'all to know that as well. The real plan surfaced near the end of 2021. So near the end of 2021, what, November, December, right? 5, maybe 6 months before the shooting, and nothing's fucking done. That is when he ordered rifle slings, a red dot sight, and shin guards, as well as the body armor carrier worn in both the video he shared and on the day of the Robb Elementary massacre. Still 17 at the time, the attacker asked at least 2 different people to buy guns for him, when they both refused to do so, or which they both refused to do so. Interviews conducted by other investigators indicate that family members and friends were aware of his efforts to buy guns before he was legally permitted to do so. I'm going to let y'all sit with that for a second. Interviews conducted by other investigators indicate that family members and friends were aware of his efforts to buy guns before he was legally permitted to do so. This tells me 2 things. 1, these motherfuckers should have fucking called the cops on him. Absolutely. 2, the laws worked until he was legally able to purchase it. Which is when we tie this all back to, assault weapons bans, raising the age, universal background checks, all of the shit that we talk about implementing all the time would have prevented this. Because the law worked until he was legally able to do it. Finally, the attacker developed a fascination with school shootings, of which he made no secret. So if it wasn't a secret, he's got all of these red flags. He's obsessed with school shootings. He talks about wanting to get notoriety. He's killing fucking animals and bragging about it. His family knows that he's trying to get guns. And nothing is said. Nothing is said at all. His comments about them, coupled with his wild threats of violence and rape, earned him the nickname Yubo's school shooter on that platform. So apparently he was well enough known on Yubo to be nicknamed that on the whole platform. Those with whom he played games taunted him with a similar nickname so often that it became a running joke. What is it? How is being called a school shooter a joke? How is that funny? Please fucking tell me how that is funny. Please tell me how children being killed in their school is funny. It's not a joke. It's not a fucking joke. If you think it's a joke, get some fucking help. And if you are so worried about somebody that you start calling them school shooter and you don't do anything about it, fuck you. Say something to someone. Try. Because apparently a whole fucking platform knew about this, knew about his behavior, and nothing was ever said and done. And now 19 children and 2 teachers are killed. 17 others are fucking wounded. All because they thought it was a joke. Because they thought it was fucking funny. Even those he personally knew in his local chat group began calling him the school shooter. After he shared pictures of himself wearing the plate carrier he'd bought and posing with a BB gun, he tried to convince them was real. Well, that's a stupid fucking line, Texas. A BB gun is real. I know what you're trying to say, but goddamn, I thought y'all were supposed to be professionals. What you're trying to say is that he had bought with and posing with a BB gun, he tried to convince them was a higher caliber. None of his online behavior was ever reported to law enforcement, and if it was reported by other users to any other social media platforms, it does not appear that actions were taken to restrict his access or to report him to authorities as a threat. I'm gonna read that again. None of his online behavior was ever reported to law enforcement. And if it was reported by other users to any social media platform, it does not appear that actions were taken to restrict his access or to report him to authorities as a threat. So we can just make threats. We can do all of this shit online. Holy fuck. I say fuck and I get arrested. This guy's nicknamed the school shooter and nothing happens. We're just going to allow him to do that. Exactly, Puff. Exactly. Like we said earlier, why didn't the family was so close to Nolasco that he had they called his personal cell phone when they were shot in the face. Couldn't pick up the phone beforehand? The last days. While a vague idea for a school shooting appears to have been in the attacker's mind as early as late 2021, he began to pursue his evil plan in early 2022 after a falling out with his mother. A blowout argument between them was live streamed on Instagram, and several members of their family viewed it. Although sheriff's deputies responded to a call, they made no arrests. Soon afterwards, the attacker left home and moved in with his grandmother, just blocks away from Robb Elementary School. Let me see here. His relationship with his mother never improved. He retained similar, and I'm going to butcher this, it's been a long day, antipathy towards his father, who last saw him about a month before the shooting. The father felt his son had no love left for him. He noticed that the attacker had cuts on his own face that appeared to be self-inflicted, something other witnesses had observed on prior occasions, and he claimed he was doing something soon. The attacker had moved into his grandparents' small home, where he had no room of his own and slept on the living room floor. A few days before the shooting, he confided in an older cousin who was also staying there, telling her that he did not want to live anymore. I don't advocate for self-deletion ever. Not ever. But motherfucker, if your plan is to go out anyways, why are you taking innocent children with you? Like, why didn't you just do it? Why need to cause all of this heartbreak and grief and trauma and anger and anxiety, all of this to everybody else? Why not? I understand not wanting to be on this planet anymore. I do. I've been there a few times. What I don't understand is hurting other people. I will never say suicide. I'm not like one of those people that's like, oh, it's a coward thing or anything like that, because it's not. It's hard. I know. But when you plan to go out and plan to take children with you, that's what makes you a coward. Because you went in with intentions to kill children. Like, not even adults. Which would have been bad enough, right? But you went in and you successfully took the lives of babies. I never want anybody to get to that point where they feel that suicide is their only escape. But if it's that or taking out children, go with the first. All right, at this point, I cannot show y'all the next page We're going to take a quick second and we're going to do some acknowledgments real quick. I do have to turn it off of that screen because the next page has pictures of the guns. So before we get going, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anna, for the 20 who said, my heart continues to break for you, donating so you can continue fighting. Thank you so much. It truly does help. It truly, truly helps. I appreciate you so much. With that being said, we're going to go through, and I'm going to read fast through this. It's still going to be, you're still going to be able to understand it and hear it and everything, but I'm going to try to read it. Hold on. Let me see if I can't just cover it real quick. It says I can redact. Let me see. Oh, there we go. All right, that's what we're going to do. Awesome. We're going to go ahead and go back. That way we can all see it together. After a lengthy heart-to-heart, the cousin believed she had gotten through to him. The attacker's uncle also recalled having similar discussions with him. Meanwhile, the attackers' planning and preparation became more focused. The committee received extensive documentation compiled and created by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the ATF. The ATF, in the course of its investigation of the attacker's purchases. He began buying more firearm accessories beginning in February 2022, including 60 30-round magazines, a holographic weapon sight, and a Hellfire Gen 2 snap-on trigger system. Why are you able to purchase these things if you're not old enough to purchase the weapons? Can somebody explain that to me? Why would you be legally allowed to buy these things? Like you don't buy these things for shits and giggles. You buy them because you plan on using them. And we see an underage child at that time purchasing 60 30-round magazines. Holographic weapon sight, and a Hellfire Gen 2 snap-on trigger system. Why is there not documentation on that? Like, what the fuck? That doesn't make no fucking sense to me. Obviously, you can see that they're planning something. On March 23rd, 2022, a suspicious person dressed in all black with a backpack was seen canvassing Robb Elementary, but no one ever identified the person. So why the fuck did we put this in the conversation? We don't know if it was him. Once again. As soon as the attacker turned 18 on May 16th, 2022, just 1 week before the shooting on May 24th. Hold on, guys. I thought they said something different. That just said May 16th. Did they fuck up or did I misread or misremember? Okay, no, I just misremembered. All right. On May 16th, 2022, just 1 week before the shooting on May 24th, he was finally able to purchase guns and ammunition. An online retailer shipped 1,740 rounds of 5.56 75-grain boat tail hollow point to his doorsteps at a cost of $1,761.50. He ordered a Daniel Defense DDM-4 V7 an AR-15 style rifle for shipment to a gun store in Uvalde at a cost of $2,054.28, including tax and transfer fee. On May 17th, 2022, he bought a Smith & Wesson M&P 15, also an AR-15 style rifle, at the same store in Uvalde at a cost of $1,081.42. He returned the next day for 375 rounds of M193, a 5.56 millimeter 55 grain round with a full metal jacket, which has a soft core surrounded by a harder metal. He returned again to pick up his other rifle when it arrived on May 20th, 2022, and he had store staff install the holographic sight on it after the transfer was completed. Wow. Apparently that's not a red flag. Apparently not. The owner of the gun store described the attacker as an average customer with no red flags or suspicious conditions, just that he was always alone and quiet, which is 100% bullshit, because I've seen the video of him in there purchasing the weapons. Dude looks suspicious as fuck. So they're posting just outright lies. It took us over a year to get that, to see that video and everything. No, 100%. If your average customer acts like that, maybe you ought not be selling guns to these people. The owner of the store remembered asking how an 18-year-old could afford such purchases. The rifle alone were over $3,000, and the attacker simply said that he had saved up. Patrons of the store who saw him told a different story in FBI interviews. See? Saying that after the tragedy, that the attacker was very nervous looking and that he appeared odd and looked like one of those school shooters. Another described his all-black clothing as simply giving off bad vibes. Not talking about the fucking all-black clothing shit, because that's just stupid, right? But the people in the store were like, oh, he looked like a school shooter? And these people are selling the guns to him. So which is it? Like honestly. I mean, I can tell you what it is. The owner of Oasis in Uvalde, it's called Oasis, lied. Because he was more concerned about his own ass after he sold the fucking guns that ended our children than anything else. But, by the way, like everything else in Uvalde, the Uvalde community still simply embraces him and fucking continues to go and eat there and shop there and everything like that, because they don't give a flying fuck. A background check was conducted, and the attacker qualified for the purchases, which is why we need to strengthen these motherfuckers. While multiple gun sales within such a short period are and were reported to the FBI or the ATF, the law only requires purchases of handguns to be reported to the local sheriff. Here, the information about the attacker's gun purchases remained in federal hands. So the ATF knew about this shit too. But why is the law that it's only handguns that have to be towed to the local sheriff? What? The attacker's uncle drove him to the gun store twice. He said he did not know they were going to pick up a rifle the first time. What about the second time? The store is connected to a popular restaurant, and the attacker said he was hungry. When he returned with a long box and no food, it was obvious he had purchased a rifle. The committee has not learned who took the attacker to the gun store on May 18th, but the uncle drove him back on May 20th after the attacker falsely told him he needed to pick up ammunition purchased online. The uncle said he did not see what was in the attacker's package, and he was too unfamiliar with firearms to know what might have been inside. It is now known that the package contained the second, more expensive rifle used in the shooting. The attacker's grandmother and cousin both told him he could not have a gun in the home. So the uncle agreed to store the first rifle at his house. I don't know your name, uncle, but I will tell you that you are complicit. You knew he was fucked off. You knew the ideations that he had. You knew everything. You took him to the store to purchase the gun. You held the gun in your house. Fuck you. I hope you get everything that you deserve. He believes the attacker snuck it out after staying the night a few days later. The attacker apparently hid the second rifle outside his grandmother's house until he brought it in the night before the shooting, as he related to an acquaintance by text messages. The attacker had no experience with firearms, and based on other investigators' interviews of friends and family, the shooting was likely the first time he fired one. The uncle recalled the attacker attempting to seat a magazine in the rifle and the magazine repeatedly falling out onto the floor. Internet search history shows the attacker sought out ranges but was unable to get to one that allowed long guns before the shooting. He also searched the internet for basic information such as what kind of ammunition an AR-15 fires and whether a magazine can be reused after being emptied. He looked for information on how to buy Juggernaut armor, a fictional armor system depicted in video games. And this is... TikTok, I'm doing shit. This is how we talk about when we say, like, when we have these conversations with people and they're like, well, if it's not guns, it's going to be something else. This motherfucker had never fired one. Never before. But he was able to go in and do all of those things that he did. You see, he wasn't like that. Y'all always say, oh, if it's not guns, then it will be bombs. This motherfucker couldn't build one. Like, what? This is why we say, had he not had access to the gun, my son would still be alive. 18 other students would still be alive. 2 teachers would still be alive. A teacher's husband would still be alive. This is why it's fucking serious. Online interactions involving the attacker continued to foreshadow a tragedy. In March 2022, in an Instagram group conversation, a student told him that people at school talk, I'm guessing shit, about you and call you school shooter. Later, the attacker began referencing a timeline. On April 2nd, he asked in a direct message on Instagram, "Are you going to remember me in 50-something days?" Nothing is ever said. After the answer, probably not, he retorted with, all right, we'll see in May. What we have still not yet to see, though, is why he picked that day. We still have no idea. We still have no idea why he picked that day. It has never been explicitly told to us. But apparently we had enough information. These motherfuckers had enough information that they know his text and they know everything. He didn't say nothing? Like, seriously? Come the fuck on. The attacker often connected those dates with doing something that would make him famous and put him all over the news. And many of those with whom he chatted suspected his cryptic deadlines meant violence. But let's not say anything. For example, in a May 14th conversation, he simply wrote 10 more days. leading to immediate speculation that he'd shoot up a school or something or commit mass murder on that day. This is the information that they're getting. And these people that he's talking to didn't say anything. Y'all are just as culpable. Y'all sat idly by while this shit happened. On May 17th, a friend told him that an acquaintance of theirs was telling everyone you shooting up the school. The attacker also began sharing photos of his rifles, including with total strangers. Those in his Snapchat group claimed they believed the guns were fake, despite the attacker posting the receipt, because he had tried to pass off a BB gun as real the year before. For those with no reason for doubts, the context often made the shared images disturbing, such in late April when a friend proposed visiting the attacker in Uvalde. "I'ma probably go out to Uvalde in the summer. We should link." "Damn, why you coming here? If it's before May 23rd, I'm down to visit you," the friend said. "Cap," the attacker says. If I get a car by then," the guest says, "probably go in July or August." "Damn, that's too late. I'm about to get 2 ARs. Wanna see? Yeah. He has a date right there, which is not the date that it happened, but he has a date right there, May 23rd. If it's before May 23rd, I'm down. Damn, that's too late. If it's after, if it's in July or August, because he's about to get 2 ARs. Another red flag. Another red flag that, unfortunately, in Texas wouldn't do fucking anything because Texas has laws against implementing red flag laws because Texas cares more about guns and money than they do children. After the attacker sent a picture of the rifle he intended to buy to great approval, their discussion continued just after his birthday when he made his first gun and ammo purchases. "Just spent $16.52 on ammo and $21.50 on some AR. Shake my head, skull emoji, laughing emoji, giving me school shooter vibes." Once again, to this friend, don't know you, but fuck you. You're a piece of shit. School shooters, not a fucking joke. And you're egging it on. And you knew, per your previous conversations, what he was going to do, and you sat around and did nothing. These kids' blood is also on your hand. Fuck you, and I hope you get everything you deserve. So, but we have heard different red flag after red flag after red flag. We started on page 29. We are now officially on page 38. There have been 9 pages of red flags that nobody discussed. The family knew he was like this. Knew that he had these things, knew what he was going to do, didn't do anything. His friends, which if you're friends with a person like that, like, fuck. His friends knew. Didn't say or do anything about it. Every single person that knew and didn't say anything, blood is on your hands as well. You're a despicable human. You're a piece of shit. Go fuck off. In the last days before the shooting, the attacker saved news stories and other information about the mass shooting in Buffalo, New York supermarket on May 19th, 2022. He also spent time with his cousin's son, who attended Robb Elementary. After playing the children's video games Roblox, the attacker elicited from him details about his schedule and how lunch periods worked at the school. On the eve of the shooting, the attacker began contacting numerous people with vague but ominous messages about doing something the next day. In one Snapchat exchange with a German teenager he had befriended, he commented, "I got a little secret, emoji. When she became curious, he told her it was impossible for today because he was still waiting for something being delivered Monday the 23rd by 7 p.m. His order of 1,740 hollow points arrived later that day. Prior to the shooting, the attacker had no criminal history and had never been arrested. He is not known to have espoused any ideology or political views of any kind. Private individuals alone knew the many warning signals. Yeah, he was originally planning the 23rd. Never says why he was planning that day, but then he had to wait to get his ammo. I don't, private individuals alone knew. Yeah, a lot of individuals knew. A lot of fucking individuals knew and didn't fucking say anything. Could not care less. All right, before we go any further, let me give a shout out real quick. Thank you so much, Beverly, for the 20. Beverly said, "Just because I care." Thank you so much, Beverly. You're amazing. Up to this point. Up to this point, do we have any questions? We fully understand. How am I holding up? I'm frustrated. It pisses me off so fucking much that all of these people knew and no one said anything. And my son has to lose his life because of a piece of shit. And the people that knew and didn't do anything about it. Did anyone from the text get arrested? Nope. If you don't take away anything else from this, if you don't take away anything else from this reading tonight, take this away with you. This is what happens when you see something but you do not say something. This is what happens. Somebody's lives could be saved. Something like this could be prevented if we know beforehand. And if you know somebody that is doing the same shit that we just read, say something. Or else you're just like all of these individuals that knew, that joked about it, and didn't do anything. Blood is on their hands as well. And once again, this is another reason why you're going to have to bury me loud. Silence is compliance. All right, let me see. Chest is hurting. I don't talk about like my anxiety or anything a whole lot, but it is getting to me right fucking now. Do a 77 seconds. That's actually a great idea. What we are going to do is, because of their silence, we're going to do this silence. And this is the silence that we're doing because we're going to continue to fight. And it's going to give me a chance to really sit and try to get this in check. Oh, give me 1 second. Let me pull up a. So if you don't know, we do 77 seconds, 1 minute for, or 1 second for each minute that the cops stood outside that these babies didn't deserve. Just a moment of silence. Remember them. Remember their names. Remember who they are. Remember that silence is compliance. And we're going to use silence to fight that, as well as being loud as fuck. I appreciate y'all. All right. Let's get back into it. May 24th, incident and law enforcement responses. Well, this one is going to be May 24th, 2022 marked the beginning of the end of the 2022 school year at Robb Elementary School. Parents, teachers, and students came to school that day ready to celebrate the students' accomplishments and awards and to look forward to another peaceful Uvalde summer. The students had completed all of their tests and school instruction was over for the year. It was awards day, and parents were coming to the school to see their children's ceremonies. Many students anticipated going home early or remaining with their classmates to watch a movie. In a nearby neighborhood, a former Robb Elementary student and Uvalde High School dropout had made other grand plans for that now fateful day. In private messages, the Robb Elementary School attacker had indicated to acquaintances that he had chosen this date in advance for a significant event. But see, this is where it gets murky, right? Because obviously it didn't matter to him too much, because if it was just like, oh, I'm going to wait another day. Obviously this didn't mean much, so what the fuck? Some in the Uvalde community have speculated that the attacker intended to choose the date when, carrying out a local tradition, the class of 2022 seniors would return to Robb Elementary to walk the halls at lunchtime. If the attacker's former classmates were his intended targets, they were spared because the seniors' visit occurred on May 23rd, 2022, the day before the tragic attack. This is where people got that information from, but it is only speculation. Why are we putting in speculation in a legalized state document? Why are we speculating? Why are we saying that this is another fucking example of they just say shit that has never been confirmed to be true? And it doesn't even tell us who said that. Some in the Uvalde community. So, where are the facts? Why are we doing speculation? Why are we doing, oh, his family said type shit? Why did he plan for late May? Nobody ever says. The attacker was at home with his grandparents on the morning of May 24th when he sent eerie online messages, including to an Instagram model he had never met, whom he had tagged in pictures of his guns the week before. "I'll text you in an hour," he wrote, "but you have to respond. I got a little secret I want to tell you." Evidence shows that the attacker had been getting in increasing conflicts with his grandmother, and she had threatened to remove him from her mobile phone plan. On the morning of May 24th, she called customer service to do just that. After a nearly hour-long FaceTime conversation with his online acquaintance in Germany, the attacker began texting her live updates. I'm literally going to read. These are supposedly actual texts from his cell phone. At 60 the fuck at 6:06. Oh, because this is from the German friend. I'm gonna tell you right now. Hold on. Waiting for this bitch. I'm gonna do something to her right now. Oh my god. She's on the phone with AT&T about my phone. It's annoying. What? I just shot my grandma in her head. I'm going to go shoot up an elementary school right now. Ocean Guy, I know what military time is. What I couldn't understand is how this happened before the shooting, which happened at fucking 10:33 in the morning. While these text messages have been circulated in media reports, those reports do not include a message deleted by the attacker's correspondent before the screenshots were taken, just 28 seconds after the attacker informed her that he had shot his grandmother and intended to shoot up an elementary school. The German teenager replied with a single word. Cool. That's why she deleted it. The attacker actually did shoot his grandmother in her face. Despite not having a driver's license, he then proceeded to steal her truck, abandoning her to seek help from a neighbor as he set out to complete his plan. Driving towards Robb Elementary on South Grove Street, the attacker apparently lost control of the truck while approaching Geraldine Street, crashing the vehicle into the ditch. This is the truck, and that is the ditch. Surveillance cameras at the nearby Hillcrest Memorial Funeral Home captured the crash on video at approximately 11:28 a.m. Two men saw the crash and began to walk from the funeral home across Geraldine Street to the location of the truck. The attacker emerged from the wreckage and began shooting towards the two men, who turned and fled back towards the funeral home. Immediately, a report was made to 911 about a man at that location shooting a gun. So on this diagram, y'all can see. I don't know if y'all can see. Oh, y'all can't see my mouse. Anyways, if you look in the left side, you'll see South Grove Street. That's the crash location. This is after he crashed. He shot towards the funeral home and then walked slowly all that way. Just walked slowly, and entered the west entrance. The attacker proceeded to advance towards Robb Elementary School. There was a 5-foot fence around the perimeter of the school property. The attacker tossed a backpack over the fence, then he climbed over it, as documented on the funeral home's surveillance camera. Robb Elementary coach Yvette Silva was outdoors at the time with a group of third graders, and she spotted the backpack being tossed over the fence, followed by a person dressed in black climbing over it. We didn't hear the gunfire? We didn't hear the crash? What? Coach Silva, being tossed over the fence, followed by a person dressed in black climbing over it. She then saw the person raise a gun and begin to shoot. Coach Silva thought the attacker was shooting at her, and she ran from the field toward her classroom. She used her school radio to report Coach Silva to office. Somebody just jumped over the fence, and he's shooting. She ran towards a group of third graders on the school playground to tell them to lock down. She expected to then hear an announcement of a lockdown, but she did not hear one right away. Meanwhile, the attacker proceeded to the fourth grade teacher's parking lot, continuing to fire his gun. While this was unfolding, Uvalde Police Department dispatch communicated to local law enforcement the initial 911 reports from the funeral home about the vehicle crash. Numerous officers immediately began to respond in the direction of Robb Elementary School. We see the video of him walking to the school, and I don't believe that we ever see him shooting while he's walking. I'll have to double look at that, but I don't believe that you see that in the actual footage. Like, you see him shoot at the funeral home, and then when he's walking, he just walks. What's funny, let's see if they actually even talk about, let's see how this goes. Uvalde Police Sergeant Eduardo Canales, commander of the SWAT team, had been at Robb Elementary just an hour before for his son's end-of-year school ceremonies. While working at his office, other officers ran down the hallway and said that there had been a vehicle accident with shots fired. He followed Lieutenant Mariano Pargas, the acting chief of the Uvalde Police. Uvalde Police Chief Daniel Rodriguez was out of town that day, and on this occasion, Pargas had been designated as acting chief. On arrival at the school, Canales saw a car stopped and a man shooting a gun. He grabbed his rifle, put a magazine into it, and grabbed an extra magazine. He saw people at the funeral home pointing in the direction of the school, and he heard someone say the attacker was in or near the building. Sergeant Canales entered an open gate where he met Lieutenant Javier Martinez, also of the Uvalde Police. So, a few things. Hold up, what? I know. Yeah. Crazy thing, though, right? Two things. They don't talk about Adrian Gonzalez, who was actually there the whole fucking time, right? No, there was. He was there. They just didn't mention it right here for some reason. There's a reason why Adrian Gonzalez is being charged right now, because he was there beforehand. But why does it say? I want y'all to read this. Can we see it when I highlight it? Let's read this together, because this is wild. On arrival at the school, Sergeant Canales saw a car stopped and a man shooting a gun. So he saw the man shooting a gun. I want y'all to fucking hold that in your mind. Per this report, Canales sees cars stopped and he sees a man shooting a gun. He grabbed his rifle, put a magazine into it, grabbed an extra magazine. He saw people at the funeral home pointing in the direction of the school, and he heard someone say that the attacker was in or near the building. He had just seen him. What the fuck do you mean? What do you mean? Did he see him or not? Also, why would he have to grab his long gun? His handgun should have been on him. No? This is very contradicting, exactly, and that's why we don't put no stock in this report itself. I just want to point out this is what Texas does during one of these things. This is what Texas does after something like this. They put out bullshit like this. Lieutenant Martinez also heard the report of a vehicle accident with shots fired. He drove towards the intersection of Geraldine and South Grove, and as he arrived, he saw a man on the side of the road pointing. He jumped out of his car, popped the trunk to get his vest, then proceeded towards the west side of the school's west building. At around the same time, another Uvalde police officer, Sergeant Daniel Coronado, also arrived on scene. He wore his uniform and a vest, but he had no rifle plates for protection. So? The fuck does that have to do with anything? Sergeant Coronado first stopped his patrol vehicle at the south end of South Grove Street, where it dead ends onto Geraldine Street. He saw two Uvalde police officers at the intersection who had arrived before him. Coronado exited his vehicle, heard gunfire, and asked where the shooting was occurring. Wait. At first, the other officers said they did not know and they could not see the attacker. Hold on. Coronado exited his vehicle, heard gunfire, and asked where the shooting was? Oh, okay, never mind. I got names mixed up. One of the officers testified to the committee that based on the sound of echoes, he believed the shooter had fired in their direction. That officer saw children dressed in bright colors in the playground, all running away. Then, at a distance exceeding 100 yards, he saw a person dressed in black also running away. Thinking that the person dressed in black was the attacker, he raised his rifle and asked Sergeant Coronado for permission to shoot. This is called out later on that is bullshit. Because they actually did see him. They just didn't do anything about it. Sergeant Coronado testified he heard the request and he hesitated. He knew that there were children present. He considered the risk of shooting a child and he quickly recalled his training that officers are responsible for every round that goes downrange. According to the officer who made the request, there was no opportunity for Coronado to respond before they heard on the radio that the attacker was running towards the school. We see the attacker walk in. The officers testified to the community that it turns out that the person they had seen dressed in black was not the attacker, but instead it was Robb Elementary coach Abraham Gonzalez. Coach Gonzalez had been on his way to the parking lot to leave the school after his lunch duty when he heard a gunshot, and then Coach Garcia's report about the attacker over the radio. He told the children to run away. Robb Elementary fourth grade teachers Lynn Deming and Sasha Martinez each testified that Coach Gonzalez yelled at their children to lock down as the attacker approached. Do they forget videos exist? They do. This is Texas doing what Texas does. Coronado saw people at the funeral home also indicating the attacker was running towards the school. He returned to his car. Okay. Why didn't he ask Canales, who had seen the guy? Right? Let's go back up. Back to that point that we were talking about right here. Canales, right? On arrival at the school, Canales saw a car stopped and a man shooting. Doesn't do anything. And then he can't find him. Coronado saw people at the funeral home, also indicating the attacker was running towards the school. He returned to his car and drove east down Geraldine Street to attempt to flank and engage the attacker. He parked his car on the northeast corner of the campus and saw Uvalde CISD Police Chief Pete Arredondo arrive. Just minutes before, Arredondo had been in his office at Uvalde High School when he heard shots fired on the radio. He rushed out, heard something about Robb Elementary School, and drove towards the school. He arrived with his radios, but as he exited his vehicle, he was fumbling with them, and they bothered him. So he dropped them by the school fence, knowing that Coronado, the sergeant on patrol, was there and fully uninformed with his radio. Oh yeah, that's the incompetence of Arredondo. It gets worse. It gets absolutely fucking worse. Oh, fuck. I've got so many thoughts going through my head right now. Like I said earlier, the last time I read this was 2 years ago. Because after this came out, I knew it was bullshit. It pissed me off and everything. But it was like we read the DOJ report, right? And we're going to. After seeing the videos and after seeing all the videos that have been released, and after seeing the DOJ report and seeing what is factual and what is not and everything, it makes this read so much harder than the first time. And I don't know if it's because I wasn't in therapy back then or anything, but and I was just running off of pure rage all the fucking time, that this didn't hurt this much. But this hurts. This hurts bad. Has any officer in any of the responding agencies been fired from this mess? Less than 5. It's been less than 5. It's not even a whole handful. Guys, I'm gonna just step off for just a few seconds. I need to catch my breath. I need to just step away for just a few seconds. I am gonna have a mod come up here and just do some mod shit. I appreciate y'all so much. Don't go away. I will be right back and we will continue reading. But I need just a few, guys. Hey, JC.
Hey, Brett, what's up?
Can you just do a little mod announcement thing and
Of
everything? I'm going to
course.
step away for just a few seconds and kind of catch my breath.
No, stretch your limbs. You've been sitting for a while, man. We got you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So there are 165 people in here. Let's go ahead and tippy tap that screen. If you yourself have been sitting through this, thank you. This is incredibly important to get the information out that's been coming out from 2022. Also, yourselves, if you cannot handle this mentally, don't be afraid to step away. We completely understand, just as Brett just did, and then come back when you are able. To continue to help in this fight, you can join us on the Discord. His link is in his website, which is going to be his first and last name.com. You can subscribe, hang out with all of us all the time. I know Puff, Trish, and I are always happy to see new faces there. Cheeky too. Going through my list of things. If you are able to and do not hurt yourselves financially when you do it, his dono links are in his bio. You have CA, PP, and you've got the V at cross 0524. In the event of what is going on, if he does get taken down as we go over this, he does have the tube. You can follow that at cross 0524 as well. You can, if you've missed today's episode, you can watch that as well. Or yesterday's, excuse me. You can watch that. It does go over all of what we've discussed before and what is up to current. As Sue just reminded me, yes, please do hit the heart knees. Those help as well. Share out the live, tap the screen. I need to find my script because going off script is not easy.
Thank you so much, JC. I appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Brett.
Absolutely, Gina. Yeah, W's for JC. Thank you so much. I needed that. I probably need a lot more than that, but we are going to push through and see kind of where we can get tonight. We did about 2.5 hours yesterday, I believe, give or take. We're at an hour and a half today, so we're gonna push a little bit more. All right, guys. As the attacker approached the school and as law enforcement responders were arriving, staff at Robb Elementary were beginning to lock down, based mostly on word-of-mouth reports of an armed man on campus. Principal Mandy Gutierrez had just finished an award ceremony and was in her office when she heard Coach Silva's report over the radio. She attempted to initiate a lockdown on the Raptor application, but she had difficulty making the alert because of bad Wi-Fi signal. She did not attempt to communicate the lockdown alert over the school's intercom. She didn't do shit. She knew the issues with the doors. She knew that maintenance wasn't locking them back. She didn't do anything. Not even over the loud system. Why not? And she still has a job, absolutely. By phone, she called and spoke with Chief Arredondo, who told her, "Shut it down, Mandy, shut it down." She told head custodian Jaime Perez to ensure that all the doors were locked. She initially locked down in her own office, but later she later moved to the cafeteria. How does she live with herself? Pretty fucking easy. Perez was in the cafeteria when he also heard Coach Silva's report on the radio. He immediately started to implement a lockdown, starting to lock doors from the outside. He heard shots and returned to the cafeteria, where he remained for the duration of the incident. In the West Building, the fourth grade teachers in and around the building also started to initiate lockdown procedures upon hearing about the approaching attacker. Sasha Martinez taught a fourth grade class in room 110. She and her class had left their classroom ahead of schedule for recess. They were on their way to the playground when they heard a coach yelling, pointing at the roof, and telling them to run. Wait, why is he pointing at the fucking roof? What the fuck is going on here? Martinez started to hear gunshots, and her students started running, some towards the cafeteria, others joining her toward the direction of their classroom in the West Building. She then decided to take them to another open classroom in another building instead. Lynn Deming in room 104 was getting her class ready to go early to recess. She was standing at the south door of the West Building waiting for a child to get a water bottle when her students heading out of the south door reported that a coach was yelling at them. She heard "pow pow" and told her kids to get back into the classroom. Elsa Avila taught fourth grade in room 109. She had lined up her students at 11:30 to go to recess. Some of the children reported to her that students from Deming's classroom were returning screaming and crying. She opened the door and did not see anybody, but she heard a female voice saying, "Get in your rooms." She returned to her classroom and slammed the door shut because otherwise the lock would not latch. She turned off the lights and closed the door. Her students knew what to do. They positioned themselves away from the windows and the doors. With them putting this in right here. With them putting this in there right here. They're making it seem like our kids didn't know what to do. That's what they're making it seem like, is that our students didn't know what to do. Way to go, Texas. Nicole Ogburn, the fourth grade teacher in room 102 at the southwest corner of the West Building, heard a sound like metal on brick from the outside. She looked out her window and saw a man in dark clothes with a gun and a bag walking up the sidewalk. She told her students to get down. She heard shots coming from outside the window, and she hid underneath a curtain in the room. In room 105, fourth grade teacher, I'm going to butcher this name, but Janika Rodriguez received a Raptor alert of a lockdown at 11:32 a.m. Her students knew what to do and where to hide. Once again, saying this makes it sound like our kids didn't know what to do. She stepped outside and checked her classroom door to ensure that it was locked. As she did so, she looked across the hall and locked eyes with another fourth grade teacher, Miss Garcia, who was locking the door to her classroom, room 112. After walking north along the west side of the West Building, as observed by Miss Ogburn, the attacker entered the unlocked west door of the West Building. The exterior doors on the east and south sides of the building were also unlocked, such that even if the west door had been locked, the attacker still could have had the ability to enter the building, but his progress likely would have been slowed. After passing through the west door, the attacker walked east into the building, then turned to his right, south into a hallway. He proceeded down to the vestibule for rooms 111 and 112 and turned left to face those doors. The attacker enters rooms 111 and 112. The surveillance video in the hallway shows that the attacker fired his gun towards room 111 and 112 at approximately 11:33 a.m. He walked forward towards the doors and could be seen stepping back into the hallway before proceeding again into one of the classrooms. We cannot be certain which of the doors the attacker entered, but based on the evidence available to the committee, it is most likely that the attacker found the door to room 111 unlocked or unsecured and entered through that door. There is no evidence that the attacker made a forced entry through either door. As noted previously, there is evidence that Ms. Garcia, a teacher in room 112, locked her classroom door as witnessed by the teacher in room 105 across the hall, Ms. Rodriguez. As for room 111, there was substantial evidence that the door did not secure properly. The teacher in room 111, Arnolfo Reyes, knew this and on several occasions reported the condition of the door to the school. There was also evidence that teachers and students throughout the fourth grade knew the condition of room 111's door, and they regularly would enter the door to access the printer in that room. Reyes had no recollection of ever receiving a lockdown alert or any memory that he undertook that the special effort needed to get his classroom door to lock before the arrival of the attacker. According to an analysis provided to the committee after entering the attack, I'm going to slow down because I'm just trying to get through this, and my words aren't fucking working right, so we're going to try this again. According to an analysis provided to the committee, after entering, the attacker spent about 2.5 minutes rapidly firing over 100 rounds between the two rooms. That's literally a bullet a second, damn near. Law enforcement discovered a Hellfire trigger system in the room with the attacker. But based on the evidence provided to date, the committee is unable to determine whether it was used to increase the weapon's rate of firing. The Department of Public Safety has advised the committee there's no indication that the Hellfire device was used by the attacker. It is also possible that it was used. Terrified teachers and students throughout the West Building heard this extended burst of gunfire, as did law enforcement officers who were arriving on campus and closing in on the West Building. Responders heard the tail end of the gunfire as they entered the building through the south and west doors. During those 2.5 minutes of gunfire, it is likely that one of those bullets passed through the walls and struck Miss Avila, the teacher in room 109. How are you telling me? We just saw, right, earlier on in the report, an officer who was there who saw somebody shooting before they even entered the school. How is it, if they were already there and they were close enough to see him before he even went into the school, how is it that they just barely heard the tail end of it? Why didn't they rush in before? Why did it take 2.5 minutes if they were already there on scene and witnessed him walk through that door? This is Texas once again trying to cover for its officers. Also during this time, at approximately 11:36 a.m., Uvalde Police Department dispatch received a call reporting a woman shot in the head on Diaz Street. Once again, That is when it reached the city police. They had called Nolasco's personal cell phone way before that. And maybe if they didn't do that, and if they would have just called the police instead of calling their buddy who fucking does fuck all, maybe they could have stopped him before he even got to the school, before he even crashed. First, law enforcement approaches and enters. After the attacker already had fired over 100 shots in Robb Elementary's West Building, two separate groups of officers converged on the building at the same time from different directions. From the time of their initial entry and over the course of the next 5 minutes, the attacker fired approximately 16 rounds. On the south side of the building, Arredondo and Adrian Gonzalez of the Uvalde CISD Police and Uvalde Police Officer Page and Sergeant Coronado approached. Officers Page and Gonzalez were the first to enter, followed by Arredondo, then by Sergeant Coronado. Wait, what? Oh, yeah. Officers Page and Gonzalez both heard rounds as they were approaching. So did Sergeant Coronado, who yelled shots fired. Meanwhile, on the north side of the building, Lieutenant Martinez and Sergeant Canales of the Uvalde Police entered the building first, followed by Uvalde Police Officers Louis Landry. What y'all can't see here is that, so you see on the south side of the building, Arredondo, Adrian Gonzalez, and Uvalde CISD Police and Uvalde Police Officer Page and Coronado approached. If you look at the bottom, that's the south entrance, right? So that west entrance, right above that is where the street is. That's where they would have pulled in, right? The shooter walked from the left side of the screen through that parking lot into the west entrance. Walked through that door, turned right, and walked down till they got to 111. Why the fuck did those officers go all the fucking way around? Martinez told a DPS investigator that he heard gunfire from inside the building. Then he entered. He testified to the committee that he suspected the attacker was inside shooting. But that as he entered the building, it was definitely quiet, with no screaming or crying. He said that on arrival inside the building, he heard a few muffled shots. That's crazy because I've heard the audio from it, and those shots weren't fucking muffled. But that the evidence establishes that as they arrived at the West Building, the initial responders knew there had been gunfire inside the building. They heard it as they were approaching. When they entered, they could see a cloud of debris in the hallway from drywall, as well as bullet holes in the walls and spent rifle casings on the floor. Yet the testimony received by the committee also indicated that none of those initial responders recalled hearing screams or having any contemporaneous understanding. As they arrived in the building, the teachers and students just then had been shot inside the classrooms. What did they think? Okay. You know there's a guy with a gun going into a school. You know this. You know a guy is going into the school with a gun. You hear the shots. And then you think, oh, nothing. What the fuck did they think he was shooting at? Like, what the fuck did they think? This is the video from the west side, or a picture from the west side where that officer is by that blue wall. That is the side that the shooter came in, walked in, turned right, kind of where these other officers are, and where you see the furthest officer, that's where roundabout where the shooter turned left and went in and killed everyone. After entering the west building, two separate groups of officers converged on rooms 111 and 112. Coming from the south, Page saw smoke and fog and observed that both classrooms were dark. Gonzalez remembers smelling gunpowder, saying that it looked smoky or cloudy, like someone had set off a fire extinguisher. Arredondo made similar observations of smoke, and he also saw spent casings on the ground. As Coronado followed this group and Arredondo from the south, he heard no more active gunfire as recorded on his body camera. It was quiet, and he could see bullet holes through the sheetrock. On Coronado's body cam footage, another officer can be heard saying, "It's an AR." Upon entering the building, the officers tried but were unable to communicate on their radios. Officer Page stopped near rooms 111 and 112, and the school surveillance video suggests that the officers coming north from the south door were the first to reach the near vicinity of 111 and 112. Simultaneously, Martinez, followed by Canales, entered the hallway and approached rooms 111 and 12, with Lieutenant Martinez approaching along the east wall and Sergeant Canales following along the west wall, as recorded on Sergeant Canales' body camera and the school surveillance video. Immediately behind them, 4 additional officers entered the building and remained in the north hallway. At approximately 11:37, the officers converged from both sides of the hallway on rooms 111 and 112. Coming from the north, Martinez peered into the vestibule for rooms 111 and 112, and he faced gunfire, getting grazed by fragments of building material on the top of his head. He immediately retreated to the north end of the hallway. On the opposite side of the hall, fragments also hit Canales on his ear. He likewise retreated and exited the building on the west side. No more shots were fired at that time toward the attacker by law enforcement responders. That was the one and only time they even went to that door for 77 minutes. Like the initial approach into the West Building, the remainder of law enforcement actions at Robb Elementary School until the ultimate breach of the classroom and neutralization of the attacker was a tale of 2 separate responses on the north and south sides of the hallway. All right. Hold on. Let me look at something real quick, guys. All right. Get back to it. On the south, after the attacker fired on the responders, Arredondo noticed the light on in room 110, the room immediately south of 111, which was used by Miss Martinez, who had taken her class out of the building early for recess. Arredondo wondered if there could be a threat in room 110. Why are we wondering if there was a threat on 110 when you were there? You literally saw them firing out of 111 and 112 at the other officers. Like, they knew where the threat was. The door was either open or unlocked. He entered to clear the room, and he saw holes in the wall. The room was vacant. He told the committee he thought, "There's no babies in here. It's awards day." He testified that he prayed that if room 110 was empty, that the children might be gone from the rooms occupied by the attacker as well. They know damn well that it wasn't. Although the encounter had begun as an active shooter scenario, Arredondo testified that he immediately began to think of the attacker as being cornered and the situation as being one of a barricaded subject where his priority was to protect people in the other classrooms from being victimized by the attacker. With the benefits of hindsight, we know now that this was a terrible, tragic mistake. Testifying before the committee, Arredondo explained his thinking on the subject at the time as follows. We have this guy cornered. We have a group of officers on the north side, a group of officers on the south side, and we have children now that we know in these other rooms. My thought was, we're a barrier. We get these kids out, not the hallway because the bullets are flying through the walls, but get them out the wall, out the windows, because I know on the outside it's brick. To me, once he's in a room, to me, he's barricaded in our room. He was barricaded in there. Well, he wasn't barricaded, but he was in there with children that were actively bleeding out, children that he had slaughtered. Our thought was, if he comes out, you eliminate the threat, correct? And just the thought of other children being in other classrooms, my thought was, we can't let him come back out. If he comes back out, we take him out or we eliminate the threat. Let's get these children out, except for the children that were in the fucking room. Children that you knew were in there. It goes back to the categorizing. I couldn't tell you if there was any different kind of categorizing. I just knew that he was cornered, and my thought was, we're a wall for these kids. The way I looked at it, we're a wall for these kids. We're not going to let him get to these kids in these classrooms where we saw the children. Arredondo's testimony about the immediate perception of the circumstances is consistent with that of the other responders to the extent that they uniformly testified that they were unaware of what was taking place behind the doors of rooms 111 and 112. That is a goddamn fucking lie. That is a goddamn lie. And we know this because we have video of Arredondo saying that, yeah, we know that children are dead, but time is on our side. They obviously were in a school building during school hours, and the attacker had fired a large number of rounds from inside the rooms. But the responders testified that they heard no screams or cries from within the rooms. That's because they were fucking killed and bleeding out. They had done what they were supposed to. They were hiding. They were fearful of their life because you wouldn't do anything. Why are you doing this to yourself, Brett? Because people need to hear. Because we have 188 people in here that may not have seen it. And that's just on TikTok. There's more on YouTube. If I don't do it, people aren't going and researching this themselves. It has to be talked about. It has to be done. And it sucks. Trust me. Yes, I'm fucking having a goddamn panic attack right now, but it has to be done. Not seeing any injured. Oh, wait. But the responders testified that they heard no screams or cries from within the rooms, and they did not know whether anyone was trapped. inside needing rescue or medical attention. Not seeing any injured students during their initial foray into the hallway, Coronado testified that he thought it was probably a bailout situation. Arredondo and other officers contended that they were justified in treating the attacker as a barricaded subject rather than an active shooter because of lack of visual confirmation of injuries or other information. Chief Arredondo explained the reasoning for not continuing an active shooter-style response, telling the committee, when there's a threat, you have to visibly be able to see the threat. You have to have a target before you engage a firearm. There was just something that's gone through my head a million times. Getting fired at through the wall, coming from a blind wall, I had no idea what was on this other side of that wall. But you eliminate the threat when you could see it. I never saw a threat. I never got to physically see the threat or the shooter. So why is it that you said that we know that there are children dead in there, but time is on our side? You knew what was going on the other side of that room. You knew. The barricaded subject approach never changed over the course of this incident, despite evidence that Chief Arredondo's perspective evolved to a later understanding that fatalities and injuries within the classrooms were a very strong probability. He effectively conceded his error when asked what he would have done differently had he known injured victims were in the classroom. He did! He did know that. I guess if I knew there was someone in there, we probably would have rallied a little more to say, okay, someone is in there. You literally say it. Arredondo went to room 109, found it locked and dark, saw a child's head, and realized there were students in that room. Gonzalez asked Arredondo if he wanted to activate the SWAT team, which he confirmed. So Gonzalez then stepped out and made the call. As mentioned earlier, however, the head of Uvalde Police SWAT team was already in the building. Arredondo then used his mobile phone to call the Uvalde Police. The Department of Public Safety supplied the following transcription of that call. Hey, it's Arredondo. It's Arredondo. Can you hear me? No, I have to tell you where we're at. It's an emergency right now. I'm inside the building. Dispatcher can be heard talking in the background asking what room number. Is the teacher with him? Is the teacher with him? Is the teacher with him? Is she in the same room as him? Can you hear me, ma'am? Dispatcher, I'm right here. Ma'am, is the teacher with him in his classroom? Dispatcher, she's in another classroom. She's in room 102. Another person possibly shot across from her. Okay, we have him in the room. He's got an AR-15. He shot a lot. He's in the room. He hasn't come out yet. We're surrounded, but I don't have a radio. Dispatcher confirms SWAT location. Yes, and they need to be outside of this building prepared because we don't have enough firepower right now. It's all pistol, and he has an AR-15. Dispatcher asked if you can stay on the phone with me as long as you can. I am, but I'm going to drop it when he comes out of that door, all right? Dispatcher advises over the radio that 401 has the shooter in 111 and 112. He's going to be armed with a rifle. He's requesting SWAT by the funeral home. So I need you to bring a radio for me and give me my radio for me. I need to get one rifle. Hold on. I'm trying to set him up. You threw out your radios. You admitted to that. You threw your radios. SWAT was already on scene. You knew children were in there. And you did absolutely nothing. By 11:42 a.m., Constable Johnny Field had arrived on the north end of the hallway. Constable Field saw Chief Arredondo on the other end and held up his phone. Chief Arredondo called and began communicating with him by phone as his primary contact on the north end. They discussed the need to evacuate children from the building, and Chief Arredondo decided to accomplish that by breaking windows. Gonzalez and Page proceeded to start breaking classroom windows and helping to evacuate students from classrooms. Arredondo found another unlocked classroom on the east side of the hallway with a teacher and students locked down inside, and he told them to stay down. Meanwhile, Sergeant Coronado had exited the building through the south door and made his own report by radio. He requested shields and flashbangs from the police department, and he asked for helicopter support and ballistic shields from the Department of Public Safety. Agreeing with Arredondo's assessment, he reported that the shooter was contained inside the building and barricaded in one of the offices. So we're at a school and we don't know what a fucking classroom is? Dispatch asked Coronado if the classroom door was locked. He responded he was not sure, but they had a Halligan tool to break it. They never tried the Halligan. They never, not once in that whole time, ever tried to use the Halligan to break it. They were terrified to get close enough to that fucking building, or to that room, to fucking do anything. God damn. Radio traffic indicated that the attacker was in Miss Morales' room, room 112, and asked whether her students were inside. In response, Coronado requested a mirror to look around the corners. A voice on the radio stated that the class should be in session. So they knew. After the initial responders took fire from the attacker, Coronado remained outside the building on the south and west sides for approximately 30 minutes, regularly advising other officers to be careful about potential crossfire or a fatal funnel in the hallway, and assisting the evacuation of students and teachers through windows on the west side of the building. When some newly arrived responders appeared to suggest that the officers should clear out the south side of the hallway because BORTAC, United States Border Patrol Tactical Unit responders, oh fuck, I'm sorry, I lost my spot. BORTAC responders were operating on the opposite end. Sergeant Coronado responded, "Chief is in there. Chief is in charge right now," suggesting both that Arredondo was in control and in communication with the other side of the building. I don't know if I can get through the rest of this chapter tonight, guys. I don't know. Let me see. What's up, Puff?
Hey, so over the last 2 years, I feel like we've gone over this so many times, but I want to point out, because there's a lot of people that haven't been around as long. So one of the, I don't think they fully understand that after this, Arredondo stayed paid.
Yep.
On board. I believe it was you having a sit out that kind of forced their hand.
No, the sit out was after. It took until August 24th, because it was literally 3 months to the day after the shooting that they finally fired his ass.
And so I just want people to kind of understand this part of it, that it's not only that you lost your son, that you have to see these people in the community. 375, right?
376, yeah.
76. and had to fight to get. So they elected the man who got the 911 call, who literally ran. It's on video, him running away. And when he finally showed up to a meeting and Brett went there to confront him, Brett was arrested for saying fuck.
Arrested for saying fuck. Because literally, and his name has been mentioned once thus far in our reading today, but it was Mariano Pargas. And after this happened, we had elections, right? And the community voted him in to be the county commissioner of Precinct 2. They voted him in after that. I get arrested for saying fuck. They get jobs and positions in politics for letting children die, for not doing a fucking thing because they were too afraid of that goddamn AR.
This is the same, and even the sheriff's department, right, who personally show up to somebody being shot in the face, don't do anything. They wait, drag their feet, then freak out when somebody says, "Get the fuck away from me," and assault you and Nikki. So the double standard in this is absolutely ridiculous. So
absolutely. And Monster brought up a good point. He said, were they the same people wearing Uvalde strong shirts? Absolutely. That's why the only thing that you'll ever see that I have that says that is right here behind me. And that's literally just because it has Uzziah's name on it. Because literally the whole Uvalde strong shit is just complete and total bullshit. These were the same people that voted him in. These were the same people that got pissed off at me when I did the sit out, which led to the firing of the school police. They had to redo the whole police force at the school. They were pissed at me because then the superintendent, who is already planning on fucking leaving, decided to retire and blame it on me. These were the same people that showed up in droves outside of a school board meeting trying to give him a parade of sorts, a small gathering saying, "We love you," having signs that said Uvalde because his name was Hal Harrell. These people never once showed up, though, to fight for accountability for our kids. And I've said it a million fucking times, and I'll say it again. Had all of those people that came outside for Hal Harrell had the kids that had been shot, if the roles were reversed, if the races were reversed, and it was 17 white kids and 2 Hispanic kids that were shot, those motherfuckers would have been inside that building. But that community absolutely does not care for shit.
So it's been a long process. And I guess that's what I really wanted people to understand, is that it wasn't just that. It was that, and then just adding so much more into it because these people stayed. Meanwhile, the principal still works in the district. There's no such a minimal amount of accountability that it is astounding. It is absolutely mind-blowing, and I don't think people fully understand that. So that's why I wanted to point that out, is that everybody's asking, "Oh, did he get fired? Did he get fired?" Yeah. Because they were forced to.
Because we started protesting like a motherfucker. I've explained this before as well. Literally, we had Uzi's funeral on June 13th, and that weekend we were out there protesting, fighting. And that took months. It took months. It was literally 3 months to the day that he was fired, and they didn't even want to do that. But yeah, real quick, I got a few thank yous to give. Thank you so much, Holly, for the 25 that says, "My heart aches for y'all. Keep fighting for the kids." Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Melissa, for the $1, and said, wish I could give so much more. Thank you for standing up for all children, even when it's hard. The respect I have for you is unmeasurable. You make us all so proud. Thank you so much. And listen, guys, if you're not in a position to, don't. I don't want anybody to stretch themselves farther than they're able to, right? But I do appreciate that. I appreciate everything. And also, Bev, thank you so much for the 40. And you said, just so sorry. Yeah, there's a lot of things. We have a lot of new people that weren't here the first time we read it, and which is why we're reading it right now. You know what I'm saying? This is what the Texas report said, and we know that most of this shit is bullshit. And I think I'm more pissed right now than I was even back then, because we have even more. We knew that this was bullshit, but we had even more evidence now showing what kind of bullshit there is. And if you want, and I highly suggest that you do, we have on our Rise for You YouTube page at We Rise for You, the documentary that we put together entitled Unimaginable, where it shows the cops' body cam footage for the whole time.
What was released at that point?
Right. Yeah, there has been more since released, but up until that point that we released it, this was all of the body cam footage. Nobody had put it together. Nobody had showed the full thing, so we did. So yeah, you can find that there.
And there's a lot of things when watching that you see with this report and the DOJ report, Prado's report. There's just so many things that are contradicting each other. It is. I know the some of us that were around during the DOJ. That's why we were all kind of freaking out at one point. I know I was, because there's some, and I hadn't seen this one yet. I wish I had before the movie, actually. There are some major things in here that I probably would have handled some things differently at the time had I seen that.
Which is just another reminder and reason why we needed to bring this back into the public light once more, because I mean, you do so much work and everything, and you hadn't seen this, so I don't think that most people do. If you haven't seen something, I guarantee most people haven't. So
yeah, it definitely brings it back. And I didn't live through this, you did. So I can't imagine. It's hard for me. I can't imagine how it is on you. So, you and Nick are my love. But I think it's good that people hear it and see it. And I know we're going to be doing this for a little bit. I think adding some 77-second breaks are important because it kind of grounds as well. I think that was great that you did that tonight.
I appreciate it. I think I want to. I think we're gonna close out on YouTube, but I think that I think we stay on for just a little bit longer and answer questions that y'all have. So with that being said, we're going to YouTube. I appreciate y'all hanging out and everything. And we will talk with y'all again later.